Okay, Mark. So very quickly, we're on to problem number 5. And I think for us, it's the single most critical element of any project. It's the thing that in our DNA, it always comes first and it's always at the forefront of our mind. And that thing is a small little word, data. Talk to us about the importance of data and why it trips up so many enterprises.
Yeah, and obviously I could talk for days and days of the importance of data in general. So what I really want to focus in is some of the challenges if you don't treat data as a first-class citizen in legacy modernization and transformation products. So, if you've had an application running for 20 years, you've been applying rules, you've been given a user interface for people to interact with, but the thing you've been collecting is the data. That's the thing that you're persisting in, maybe a database or a file store. That's your gold, really. That's your treasure, right? That's how you can prove what you've done from an auditing perspective. That's how you can feed the next generation of rules. That's how you can look at what products were resonating in the market, how people are using your systems. So data is really the gold there. And what I see a lot of people making mistakes on is they say, yeah, data's important, so we will, again, create another stream for data. And what do they call it? They call it data migration, right? So we see this as one of the biggest failings of any kind of legacy migration project, that they just separate out data as a data migration stream, because what tends to happen then is that stream waits until the new data structures are designed. They analyze the old data structures and they just look at how can we just move that data, right? So just transfer your goal to a new safe on that, rather than taking the opportunity to say, well, how was our data structured 20 years ago when this application was first envisaged and designed? How should our data be structured now? Really understand it. What data have we got in there? And I would say with anyone who's looking at this, first think about extracting, before you even touch moving the data, have a strategy of how you're going to understand that data, how you're going to extract out of it the logical representation of that data. Does this still mean something to the business users? So almost take a step out with the data first before you put it into the new systems, and really think about how should our data be designed for the future, not just for today. I see a lot of, and I've seen this in a lot of financial institutions, especially if they've kind of, acquired new brands or merged, that they take the data off as is and almost like have a closed book and an open book system and just keep the closed book as it was. And it's almost like locked away. It's there in case you need it. But that's the heritage of your business. That is the inheritance that you leave in for the next generation of applications. Here's the data. This is how people were using the system. This is what the rules were. So, yeah. So I think 2 failings, not think of data as the critical element, and starting data migration talk later, after you've done it. It always ends up on the critical path. It always gets compromised, right? And it always prevents kind of the staged rollout of new applications, and leads people to say, well, it has to be big bang because that's the only way we can do the data migration, right? Yeah. So I think in the future sort of chapters of this, we'll talk about some techniques to really care for your data and how to bring it out. But I definitely want to leave this one with everyone thinking about, don't think of data just as a second thought.
Yeah, and I think I've been reading a lot of white papers in the last couple of weeks for a round table that we've got next week with some tech leaders, and I think the one thing that's really going to change the game very, very quickly and help accelerate is AI and automation. I think there's so much that can be done. How do you see, if we just have a little rich snippet of the changes that AI can have with what we do with our data, how quickly do you see that change in the game?
Well, I'd almost look at it from a different angle. You know, AI is nothing without data. You know, the intelligence is gained from analysing the data and trying to look for patterns in that data and trying to predict, right? So making that data available, whether it be 20 years old data or, you know, last week's data, and learning about that transition is absolutely key within that. And what a lot of people think about or structure their projects from a data perspective on a legacy modernization is they'll either they'll look to just transform that data into the new structures just for that new UI application, or they'll end up saying that's not feasible. Let's build a new UI on top of the existing data structures. And they're almost missing a trick that if they understand what data's there, get it structured for kind of a customer-facing interactive system, but also for analytics, also for AI, large learning modules to process, also to identify events that have occurred and looking for trends and patterns. You know, that's where the gold is in an application. You're going to replace the UI, you know, very rapidly. You'll replace a lot of the logic and the processes and the services, but the data will persist. You know, it's rare that the actual data structures, the logical data structures that a business is based on, do not change that often. The interactivity to users and the processes and how you use that data changes, but the core of, you know, a banking system, of a transaction and, you know, a current account and different products stays fairly similar from a structure point of view. And, you know, it's a shame. I find it a real shame when we do legacy modernization, or when we see legacy modernization projects with clients, that they treat data as you just need to move it across to the new system, rather than how now can we extract and leverage that data, you know, and then they can start, you know, and often this will be the same organization that's trying to innovate with AI by producing a chatbot or, you know, something simple, and understanding why it feels like just FAQ and people are saying, you know, well, it's not really got much intelligence. It's just giving me answers. It's because it hasn't got access to the right data.